Juneteenth is a local Texas holiday which began after Major General Gordon Granger back in 1865, exactly 158 years ago today, let slaves in the Lone Star State know they'd been emancipated. As far as I've heard, they were some of the last slaves to finally hear what had been proclaimed by President Abraham Lincoln on New Year's Day of 1863, as news spread in the now formerly Confederate States. But as with anything, this local holiday, and again, I'll emphasize that because now the new orthodoxy by revisionist historians is that this has always been a widely recognized and publicly celebrated holiday, is being repurposed for, well, truly dangerous ends. And I say that not to be hyperbolic or fearmonger. As the National Museum of African American History and Culture, part of the Smithsonian, calls it, Juneteenth is to be seen as a second Independence Day. Much like the pride flag taking the place of prominence ahead of Old Glory at the White House last week, Juneteenth is similarly being set up to overtake the 4th of July in our nation's collective conscience, especially when you remember we already have a new Black national anthem that's been played before professional sports games. Recall that this is the same museum which back during the summer riots of 2020 were calling traits like hard work, accountability, timeliness, and the nuclear family relics of white supremacy. Now, the reason why I bring all this up is because wokeness and all the related ideologies which terminate in it is at root a system of belief for those who want to take everything and to make nothing. It's the ultimate level of liberalism. I want what I want, how I want it, and when I want it, and don't you dare ask anything of me in return. So step one to do so is to erase history and to rewrite it as a supervillain story for all the Marvel brain-addled youth whose midwit intellectual skills have heard, well, something about slavery, and they think they know everything about it and its history, and it now gives them a boogeyman against whom no low is ever too low. And that's the key takeaway. It's a nasty and a vicious ideology which allows race hustlers of all colors to parasitize off those they can't outcompete. It allows women to hate men and to take them to the cleaners as they commit suicide in droves, for porn-addled men to take out their bizarre sexual fantasies on women and innocent children, and a number of other mix and match options. Just take your pick. There's something for everyone in this lazy ideology, well, except for virtuous and faithful religious Americans, specifically Christians whose work ethic, hard work ethic, literally built this nation and gave it the tools necessary to thrive. A very interesting new article over at Palladium magazine by author Harold Robertson brings this to light with the ominous headline, "Complex Systems Won't Survive the Competence Crisis." The article begins by laying out the following examples, quote, "At a casual glance, the recent cascades of American disasters might seem unrelated. In a span of fewer than 6 months in 2017, 3 U.S. naval warships experienced 3 separate collisions, resulting in 17 deaths. A year later, power lines owned by PG&E started a wildfire that killed 85 people. The pipeline carrying almost half of the East Coast gasoline shut down due to a ransomware attack. Almost 500,000 intermodal containers sat on cargo ships, unable to dock at Los Angeles ports. A train carrying thousands of tons of hazardous and flammable chemicals derailed near East Palestine, Ohio. Air traffic control cleared a FedEx plane to land on a runway occupied by a Southwest plane preparing to take off. Eye drops contaminated with antibiotic-resistant bacteria killed 4 and blinded 14, end quote. He then goes on to explain how this entire nation is built on top of highly complex systems that all have to work in finely tuned harmony by people who know what they're doing. And when something goes wrong, the downstream effects can be absolutely catastrophic. While that is always a possibility, living in such a technologically and hyper-connected age, we're now making such catastrophes more likely by erasing meritocratic standards. He says, quote, "The Scholastic Aptitude Test, SAT, revolutionized college admissions by allowing elite universities to find and recruit talented students from beyond the boarding schools of New England. Following the adoption of the SAT aptitude tests such as Wonderlic 1936, Graduate Record Examination 1936, Army General Classification Test 1941, and Law School Admission Test 1948 swept the United States. Spurred on by the demands of 2 world wars, this system of institutional management electrified the Tennessee Valley, created the first atom bomb, invented the transistor, and put a man on the moon. By the 1960s, the systematic selection for competence came into direct conflict with the political imperatives of the civil rights movement.